Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sour and SaaS. I am very excited to be joined today by the VP of Marketing of Seamless.AI, Jonathan Pogact. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, what's up, Garrett?
Excited to be here. You just outclassed me today. I have a jacket over there. I could grab it if it.
You always keep the jacket on standby.
Yeah, I know you have to, right? You never know when you need to look smart. Like it's a critical.
Oh man, my grandfather would always say, "I look smarter than I look," and I don't know if I should repeated that.
No, man. Well, it is Sour and SaaS. We're gonna try something new. We're gonna start with sour candy, and then we're gonna get started. You ready?
All right, let's go. Funny story. My 9-year-old, I think, ate that, so I have some toxic waste. Is this fair?
Yeah, you're good. That's it. Mine have been out. I did not cover them, and they're still all get out. Great. Okay. So let's start with the heavy hitter. No, I'm just kidding. But
that's horrible.
Oh yeah, it gets worse. Why no content in the menu? You've got such a streamlined menu at Seamless. What was your logic and thought process behind really creating a transactional funnel, in my opinion? What was kind of your thought as VP of Marketing? What are you trying to accomplish there?
I think it's part of the evolution of just our company, right? And what we do for our content strategy today is take a complete surround sound approach to where people can find us and how people can find us. So we are very heavy on LinkedIn. We take a founder-led approach to our LinkedIn strategy. You'll see Brandon Bornanson on there multiple times per day throughout the week, making the most of that platform. We help support, of course, through our Seamless content. We create courses that are accessible through our platform and through YouTube. We have 3 #1 bestseller Amazon books where people can discover us sometimes for the first time via Amazon, where we're selling, which sounds crazy to me every time I hear it. We sell hundreds of books per day, and a majority of them are through organic sales on Amazon.
Wow.
And we just kind of give all across social media. So by the time somebody finds us, really what we want to do is have them ready to have a conversation. So I've done both sides, right? I've managed websites, and when I worked on the agency side of things, we'd always encourage all the content to live right on the website to create one robust experience. We're trying to blanket the market in terms of how and where people can find us, so that by the time they get there, they're informed, they're ready, and we can have a conversation with them about how we can help them drive more sales.
I love that. And I think it's a very evolved approach. I think I'm trying to do something similar, right? Like this show and all this stuff, a lot of it lives live. It's very much about distribution. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying is that LinkedIn has better distribution than your blog, right? Like YouTube probably has better distribution. Yep. Amazon has better distribution. It seems like you're optimizing your content strategy to distribution over, let's say, organic distribution. Because you're right, SEO is still distribution, I guess. I like your approach. I haven't seen a lot of people take it. Why do you think more marketers are afraid to go against the grain? Like, what do you think that? Because it's almost like this groupthink mentality, because it's not like it's actually working for most people. Yep. They just do it because they're supposed to. So, like, walk me through maybe a little bit of your mentality around not doing things just because you're supposed to.
I think that's a great question. And we have a podcast too, by the way. So that's another distribution channel, right?
Yeah.
I think where a lot of marketers get really stuck is that they're trying to measure everything. They're trying to measure everything down to an MQL, right? Like where did Jonathan come from?
Yep.
Right. And if that doesn't show up on a report, then it's going to be very hard for them to justify to their C-suite, their CEO, and their board, right? Whoever the stakeholders are.
I gave you $1. How much money did I make? And you're like, I don't know if it was $1. Like,
where'd the dollar come from? So I think a lot of it starts, honestly, with the leadership, right? And the mentality and having a team that's bought into marketing. I think you have to be sold on marketing first to be, ultimately get sold on sales and where customers are coming from. Because the podcast, who came from the podcast? It's not showing up on my dashboard,
good
right?
Luck, right? Good luck on trying to do podcast attribution right
now. Who bought a book from Amazon? Good luck trying to get any data from Amazon.
Yeah, connecting the dots between Amazon book sales and demo requests, right? Like, good luck.
You don't. But where that does show up, though, is it shows up in very personal emails to our team, to our CEO. It shows up in the in-mail box, right? We get in-mails, probably about 75 to 150 in-mails per day to Brandon's inbox alone, from customers, from prospects, people that aren't customers, right? But that are in sales saying like, wow, I read your book and it was so insightful. I got so much information out of it that it helped turn around my pipeline after a few months. That's where it shows up, right? It shows up in CS, in our team, in our email and retention rates. It just doesn't show up as a one-to-one attribution, but we know it's impactful because we see it, we hear it, and we're going to keep doing it.
So Jonathan, conversely, let's play devil's advocate just for a millisecond, because I actually totally do agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing things that you can directly attribute to ROI, which you're not for most part, like I do see your strategy and you're not, how do you get approval? Is that just like, and let's assume you don't have a CEO with a massive LinkedIn following who happens to help marketing out by writing books or doing live shows in this case, or whatever that is, right? Like, I think you're talking to a guy as CEO who's totally bought into marketing.
Yeah.
I've found that most of my customers, that is not the case. So if someone's listening to the show right now, they're like, yeah, Jonathan, this is great. Your CEO, though, does LinkedIn every day and has like 2 billion followers. So of course it works. What about me, where, you know, my CEO isn't really into marketing, and I like, how does someone make a business case for non-attributable concepts that will grow revenue in your mind?
Yeah, I think you have to start building the business case, and you do have to tie it to a goal in some way or another, right? And even though it's not going to be directly attributable, the goal behind it could be, hey, I have a great strategy for landing and expanding accounts, right? We're going to create this new podcast where we interview the DMs from our best customers, and we're going to get them even more bought in at my company.
Yep.
That's just one idea, right? And you can spin off a podcast like that and have it deeply rooted into a goal, right? And that goal could be retention or churn mitigation or something like that.
We're going to look at the trailing 12 months of demos, and after we publish the Amazon book, we're going to see if demos go up. And once again, try to tie that back, let's say, to demos or whatever that is. And there's ways to attribute it, even if it's not like, what was the value of the podcast directly, or what was the value of the Amazon book one-to-one. We can still use blanket KPIs and then measure them against historicals, right?
100%, right? And those things can also become sales enablement tools for your sales team to go to market, to help increase pipeline, right? To help shorten sales cycles, to help get more business from your competitors. It all works, right? So like, we're not doing all this stuff because it feels good. We're doing all this stuff because we know at the end of the day, right, it's going to help our sales team close more deals. It's going to help retain more customers. It's going to help bring net new people to Seamless, right? And, you know, we wouldn't be doing all this stuff if it wasn't driving more users, driving more demos, helping out with sales enablement and with our CS team, you know, with retention.
I love that. No, I'm right there with you. Now, you have another thing I've never seen before. Now, first off, are you ready?
Oh boy, let's go. I already have it lined up.
Oh, I can barely even bite these off. They're so stale. So you have like the world's, I think this is actually in Guinness somewhere, longest demo page. So can you walk me through? It obviously works, but it like totally reminds me of like a ClickFunnels like landing page that I would see if like you were selling diet pills, but you're selling like sales software and it's working. So walk me through why, once again, you kind of zig while everybody else is zagging, and what you're doing on the demo page.
Yeah, to start off, you're right. The second one is worse, which is weird. Usually the second anything is a little bit better than the first, but in this case, it's not. So the demo page, so what we're trying to do there is cater to as many personas as we can, or actually conversion-based actions.
Many blocks, right? I'm not ready because of this. I'm not ready because of that.
Exactly.
I'm not quite convinced because I haven't heard about this yet.
Yep. If you're one of those people that are just ready, you want to get to the demo, don't show me any BS, right? I just want to get to it. We've got that, but we also overwhelm with social proof as well. For somebody who wants to do a little bit more research, maybe not quite ready, we do give them the opportunity to check out our case studies, right, which we call President's Club. Anybody that's sold 6 or 7 figures with Seamless, we'll interview them, get more content, by the way, and then we'll, use that on our sales pages. But we include all of our social proof, anything that anybody would need in order to make a better decision when it comes to Seamless. It's there. So you don't want to scroll? Great. Don't. Just book a demo like you normally would, right? Yeah. Like a normal, like your everyday SaaS company would do, right? Your form on the right, your copy on the left. But if you're not quite ready yet, we give you the opportunity to shop us while you're still on the page.
Now, I don't think you're in risk of other people just copying here, because I do think it's that innovative and it's that disruptive to like what people think is quote unquote good branding. Yet nothing that matters if it makes you money or more money. Have you tested it? Like, how did you land on this spot? I guess is what I'm curious about. Like, how did you get to this type of landing page, or was that initial concept, or like what was the evolution that got you here? Because I think that's as equally of an interesting story.
For the book of demo?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm just curious, like how you got there. Like, was that like a raw idea one time, or did you evolve to it, or how'd that happen?
It's an evolution with everything, right?
Yeah.
At first, you start off with what everybody else is doing, which is a form.
Exactly, right.
It's unfortunately that's where that's where you start off, and you should actually, right? Like, what's working for another company that you think that you can borrow ideas from?
Yep.
Right. And with average actions, you typically will end up with average results, which might get you off to the races.
Yep.
Right. But then you're always looking to beat yourself. You're looking to be, the rule or the exception, not the rule, I think. Right.
Yep.
And that's where you start to innovate a little bit more. Right. We obviously learn a lot from other companies out there. We learn a lot from other industries as well, which has always been in my back pocket, especially having an agency background. Like when I worked in EDU, we learned a lot from healthcare. When I worked with technology companies, I learned a lot from these more entrepreneurial startup companies, which were a little bit scrappier, that had a little bit more innovation because they could afford the risk.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's kind of where we play. We're trying to play in is like, what's best in class, and then what's plus one. Yep. What could we do to help plus one that? Right. And what could we do to help plus one ourselves? Because, as a fast growing company, I'm sure a lot of your audience could appreciate this. We can't afford to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like, we have to continue to grow. Right. If we're serving a massive challenge, a massive need in the market, scale is really the only option.
No, I love where your head's at there. And you mentioned the President's Club, and that was a note I had in preparation for this. The President's Club's dope. Like, tell me what your idea there is, like what you're trying to do. Because I love any type of like customer marketing that then goes back into acquisition. So I think if you can go like full flywheel effect, right, of like expanding the client, growing the account, increasing your retention, but then also using that information to acquire more accounts and then repeat that process. It's a very cool like flywheel you have there. Tell me more about what you're trying to do with it and kind of why you came up with this, and a little bit more about the President's Club.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. It's a flywheel, right? But it works amazing. So anybody that's in sales knows what President's Club is, right? They might be working for a company that has their own President's Club, and it is always going to be tied back to how much sales have you generated as an AE, as a sales team, as an individual SDR, whatever it may be, right? And we came up with the idea to help celebrate the sales contributors and teams and leaders that are using Seamless, right? Because that's what we're there for. We're there to help people make more money in their sales, right? By getting them amazing data and coverage. So created President's Club to celebrate our clients, but also create that flywheel, right? So we do a pretty cool thing for our winners. If you sold 6, 7, 8 figures with Seamless, using Seamless, we'll interview you. We'll get content out of it. We'll do an interview just like this. We send them a huge award, which you probably have seen, right? And they put it on their wall because it's awesome. They celebrate it on social media. It gets the word out there again, and it's a flywheel, like you mentioned. It helps with retention, helps celebrate our best customers too, which is really the intention behind it. And of course, social proof is going to breed, attraction to the platform.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, another thing you've done that I think is different is most people still have written case studies, and you've gone all in on video, it looks like. So in your mind, because I do find like case studies, I totally agree with video, but it's hard in my mind because case studies are such like a distributed asset off of your website. Like they're very much like people sharing PDFs to some like person who they have to get approval from. And then it makes it look like they covered their butt. And so they like checked out this case study that Susan sent them. And, Jill felt good signing off because of it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's very much like this kind of like risk averse like asset that people use internally to buy things. Like, look at they worked with these people. Look, it's a case study. I did my research. I'm not a bad chooser of technology. Yeah, like I feel like that's a big part of it. Do you get less of that with video? Do you get more of that? Like, how does video fit in that like kind of ironic and comical, but also real reality? You know,
I think we're talking about social proof, right? I think social proof wins at the end of the day. But it's interesting that you bring up case study, right? Like we actually don't call these case studies for us, even though they are at the end of the day. If you think about it, right? A case study is what does the company say about the work that they've done for other customers in their words?
Yeah.
And there's a certain degree of authenticity when it comes to that. Basically, what it means is you got approval from that company to use their logo and the words that you put together to build out why they keep paying you money. And
maybe you got a 15% discount for that too.
Maybe you got a little discount, right? Or
yeah,
you probably you proved it, right? It's needed, like, right? We need to know as buyers. I'm a buyer of technology and services. Like I need to know that the risk, boy, there's some stuff in the middle too.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stop.
Man, we need to have some comfort in that our investment's worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
That it's worked for other companies that look like us, right? Of course, I want to know, like, hey, Garrett, like your agency work with other really fast growing SaaS companies, right? And if your answer is like, well, we have one, probably not going to have another call with you. But if it's like, yeah, of course, look at my track record, I'm going to go, all right, well, that's interesting.
Right now, yeah.
Well, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more. So it's a little bit outside of the box in terms of the traditional case study because they are saying it for themselves on behalf of themselves. And we turn that into sales enablement too in the written word, right? And some PDFs, but we're using video first. We're using the authenticity first. We're not giving these winners a script at all. They're off the cuff. We're going, hey, how did you earn 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures with Seamless? And then they go.
And that's when you get the real raw like sound bites too for the product and like the things. And I think from a research standpoint for you, right, you can take that information, bring it back into the copy of the landing pages and do your content to really get people from apathy to action with the words of your customers. And I think that's really cool. Now, we talked about distribution earlier. You didn't mention a very important channel of distribution that I'm actually curious about, which is your Chrome extension. How effective are Chrome extensions for new business acquisition, not just as like a product feature for existing customers?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, our Chrome extension is where the magic happens, right? So
that's like one of your competitors did a pretty decent job growing their business and data with a extension. So I'm very curious.
If you have a service that works anywhere via Chrome extension, you have to go all in on that, right? It's how we browse these days, right? Like it's not a anomaly to have users.
It's not a nice to have anymore in your mind. If you're a browser, like if the job to be done using your software is done in a browser, you need a Chrome extension in your opinion.
You have to have it. Plain and simple.
I love to hear that. Well, what does it do for you? Why do you need to have it? What in your mind as a marketer? I know what it does as a product user, but maybe give me that whole like thing of why Chrome extensions are so critical.
Well, it's the experience and it's the workflow and it's the time savings, right? So you always have to think about things in the lens of your customers and what they can do with that Chrome extension to make their lives easier, move faster, build pipeline faster, find contacts faster, right? Like we don't always want to log into a separate platform to do the things that we want to do. Chrome extensions with me everywhere I go. So it's really about the user experience and the results that customers can get by using that. So if you have the opportunity to build a Chrome extension, or if you haven't put much weight into the Chrome extension, I would go all in on it because that's how we're browsing the web these days.
Now, is that just because your industry and your vertical and your persona expects it, like to play, I guess, conversely, right? Because Data Nice, I remember back in the day, Data Nice, I feel like kind of started this. Like Data Nice had the Chrome extension, right?
Yeah.
And then you started to see Reach Out, and then you started to see Seamless. You started to see all the different Chrome extensions, Outreach.io's extension, right? Like all the players who service sales, Chrome extension is like a huge part. Now, if you just go over like 2 inches to the left, HubSpot, what's their extension like? What's Ahrefs extension like? What's SEMrush? So like, in other words, you and I as marketers, we don't really use Chrome extensions, yet salespeople live and die on them. So do you think it has something to do with the sales industry as well? Or kind of what's your take on that?
I think if you really think about it, it's what can you do? What would this look like if it were easier? And if a Chrome extension is the answer to that, then that's what you do.
That's really it's like keep it simple, right? Like, is there a better way of doing this?
Yep, that's it. I think that's plain and simple. What would this look like if it were easy? Is there a better way of doing this? And if a Chrome extension is the answer, you do it. Like I use Built With on every website I go to because it's just so easy.
Same.
Like, you just hit the
I
button,
have some of those too, right? I still have those. Like I have Detailed, which is like an SEO Chrome extension, is like a better version of the Moz bar in my mind, but it's the same like idea, right? And so some people like I used to use that Moz Chrome extension forever. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do,
but that was how like I would get their domain rating or their page authority or something.
Yeah.
Now pricing, it's not in the menu. It is in the footer. Why? Like, why not in the menu? I imagine if you throw that thing in the menu, it's going to be like your most trafficked page. So kind of what's your concept of the buyer journey and kind of not having it apparently start with price or making price something you have to seek out?
Yeah, I know that's a big topic. The reason is because not everybody fits into a package, right? If you think about companies that are 11 to 50 compared to companies that are 500 plus, like the data needs and the workflow needs are just going to be so vastly different across them that there's no way to put that into a bucket when it comes to data these days, right? An enterprise salesperson, enterprise AE compared to a high transaction SaaS AE, very different data needs, very different workflow needs, very different integration needs. And because of that, it really does require some sales intervention there or some consultative conversations around like what's really the best thing for you. And fortunately, we're the size that we can do that for our customers. Like we don't have to force you into the 3 packages or the 4 packages, right? Like which virtually everybody does, Salesforce, Slack, other data providers as well. But we can still be flexible and work with you in terms of like what's going to fit your needs and what's the best option for you. Data is a moving target. Sales is a moving target.
Works well selling into sales though too, I'm sure, where they're going to want to negotiate and they're going to want to talk about it. And there's a whole game when you're selling salespeople, right?
Salespeople want to win the sale. So,
and as long as you win too, everybody won, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's also part of it, right? It's like we want to do what's right for our customers at the end of the day because we want to hold on to them and do right by them for a very long time.
Yeah. No, I love that. Now, part of this that not a lot of people talk about, but I think it's super interesting, there's not a lot of content on, is Amazon. So you wrote 3 books, right? I think there's 3 books as the CEO contributed.
On Amazon, yep.
Yeah, on Amazon. Well, how, if other marketers are hearing that and they're like, well, Amazon is a massive search engine. It's hugely important in the educational, informational stage of the buyer journey. If you want to sell upstream, I've found C-level executives are more likely to read a book than a blog post. They can bring it on their travel with them. There's just a lot of pieces to that. How can other marketers go about learning from your Amazon strategy and what goes into a good Amazon book? Can we self-publish it? Do we need to go through a publishing house? Like, what's that experience like? How can you give us a little bit more information around how we can leverage Amazon to maybe write a book for our industry and then generate awareness?
Yeah. Well, first you have to think about like, do you have something to say that's unique, or do your customers have something to say that you can leverage to turn into content that would be valuable to the market, right? Whoever your persona is or who you're selling into. Chances are it's a yes, right? Because you have a company that sells services, and they probably sell services for a very good reason because they're solving a challenge and a problem in the market. So think about what that looks like first. The other thing is you don't need a big publisher. I don't even think you want a really big publisher, to be honest, right? There are so many resources out there when it comes to self-publishing. Just Google it up. You can find somebody to help you write the book if you need it. We wrote it ourselves. We didn't use an outsourced ghostwriter or anything like that, but there are resources like that. You can find editors out there that can help you with editing, design work for the cover. Use any designer of your choice, really. Amazon will give you the playbook in terms of what that should look like. And it is SEO. A lot of it is SEO, right? So think about what you're trying to solve, the content that you're trying to create, and who it's for, because Amazon's its own animal when it comes to SEO optimization. It's its own animal when it comes to paid media. But to your point, we started off with the physical book, And then we went, all right, well, let's release an ebook. And the hypothesis or the guess was like, hey, we're probably going to sell a lot more of these ebooks because it's cheaper. And it's not true at all. We sell more of the hardbound books, more of the physical
you
books.
need the tactile experience, John. I want to hold the book. There we go. I like that. People are fighting back.
They're buying more of the physical book than the ebook. So there's a lot to be said about that. But I would recommend it if you can. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, well, my CEO, it's not like that. Rather stays behind the scenes. I've heard all of that too. And it's your job to get that information out of whoever that is, right? It doesn't have to be
interviews or however you can get that subject matter expertise. Now, do you see yourselves writing more books? Like, because I'm guessing now the point is not the revenue from the book sales, I would imagine at this point.
It's not.
So, do you see that as a strategy where you can take the, let's say, jobs to be done of your persona through your product's use case and then just keep repeating that playbook? Do you think that's scalable to a certain extent?
It's scalable, right? Like, if you just think about your ideal client, your persona that you're targeting, whatever it is, what are the challenges that they face every day? What do they need in order to be successful? Like, what tools do they need? Whether it's mindset, whether it's strategy, whether it's execution. Like, think about all of those things as it pertains to your content, because you can probably help them out in all of those areas.
Yep. I love that. Now, last one. Are you ready? My mouth is almost destroyed.
All right. I'm going to go for the blue one. Hopefully it's friendlier than the green.
Now, oh man, I wasn't able to easily find it, so it's probably on me. But after the more we've been talking in this interview, the more I'm going to learn about Seamless, the more community becomes such a critical part of the strategy if I'm sitting in your seat. So, for Directive, we've launched Society. It's a free community for SaaS marketers, got over 1,000 members. It's been really, really great for us. High correlation to demos and even closed won. It's a big part of what we want to do here. You have a very similar actual marketing strategy to myself of how we view the world, I think. Mm-hmm. So where are you with community and kind of how does that fit? What are you doing today? What do you want to do? Because I do see it as a huge piece for you. I'm very curious.
It's a big opportunity, and it'll continue to be a big opportunity. It's like, how do you mobilize all, not only just like your customers and your users, but all of your fans out there?
Right? Yeah, you got Sales Hacker in your space, right? They literally are required for the community use case. You've got like a serious craving, I feel like, on LinkedIn for community. That's why your CEO does so well. Sales is massive on LinkedIn, right? I got some ex-guys here who are salespeople that have massive followings on LinkedIn. So yeah, like for you, how do you want to execute? Do you want it to be a Slack group? Do you want it to be more private content? Like what does that look like in your mind?
Yeah, we started that out about 6-8 months ago or so with a private Facebook group called President's Club. Private, we invite all our users and customers to President's Club directly as an opportunity for them to foster community within the sales community. And we get questions and answers, direct access to myself, Brandon, anybody on our team as well, if we can help them out with the platform. But it's mostly for them to talk about how to win in sales. How that evolves, there's obvious opportunities out there. With Slack groups, I'm a big fan of some of the Slack groups that are out there, like Rev Genius. I'm a big fan of them. Sales Hacker as well. We engage with all of those groups. We're part of all those groups. LinkedIn just came out with their beta for product groups, which I think is super interesting that we're, testing out while they're in beta to see if it's viable. I've not been a big fan of LinkedIn groups, but
those kind of stunk, but they have such good distribution right now on their channel for creators that if that could get you some, like being a first mover, if that could get you an advantage, I think it's totally worth exploring, right?
Absolutely. So we're always looking to test new things. Yeah,
when LinkedIn launches new features, I found that they juice them. You know what I mean? Like they really juice those features. Like if it's going live on LinkedIn, they're going to juice it. If it's their new product group, they're going to juice it. So I love where your head's at, man. That's really smart. Now, in closing, can you maybe give anyone who is listening just a quick elevator pitch on how Seamless is different than the other kind of data providers, and then we can wrap up?
Yep. So Seamless helps any sales contributor, leader, AE, rep, SDR, marketer, entrepreneur, founder, you name it, find their total addressable market through our real-time search engine, Seamless.AI for B2B leads. Any email, mobile, or direct number, or sales insight, you can find it in Seamless. So why we're different? We pride ourselves in a real-time technology search engine for B2B contacts. So not a database that updates every month or every quarter, real time, every day. Sales is a moving target. People are working from home, changing jobs, especially in sales. So that's why we kind of lean in on the search engine aspect of our business.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Jonathan. If anyone wants to follow along with your journey, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. There you go. You got it right there. LinkedIn, Jonathan Pogact.
Awesome.
You hit me up on Twitter too, Jay Pogact.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show, Jonathan. And that's another episode of Sour and SaaS. Thanks, everybody.